Did you know that Santa Claus once wore a variety of colorful suits, not just the red one we're familiar with today? That's right. Our jolly old man in red has a history as vibrant and diverse as the many countries he visits on Christmas Eve. But to truly understand Santa Claus, we must first delve into the ancient roots of the holiday he's become synonymous with: Christmas. Now let's turn back the hands of time, way back to the ancient winter solstice festivals. These were times of community, marking the shortest day of the year and celebrating the return of longer days. It was a time of feasting, storytelling, and gift-giving, a tradition that carries forward into today's Christmas celebrations. As Christianity began to spread across the world, these winter solstice festivities took on a new significance. The Christian faith saw the potential in these celebrations and decided to merge them with their own. And so, in the 4th century, December 25th was officially designated as the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. This marked the beginning of the Christmas tradition as we know it. But the story doesn't stop there. As the centuries rolled on, Christmas celebrations continued to evolve. They absorbed traditions from different cultures and communities, transforming into a truly global festival. So, while the Christmas tree might have its roots in Germany, and the Yule log comes from Scandinavia, the spirit of Christmas is truly international. So, the Christmas we celebrate today has its roots in both pagan and Christian traditions. It's a blend of ancient winter solstice festivals, Christian celebrations, and cultural customs from around the world. And at the heart of it all is a jolly old man in a red suit, who started out wearing a variety of colorful suits. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's just appreciate the rich and diverse history that makes Christmas the global celebration it is today. You might be surprised to hear that the Christmas celebrations of medieval Europe had no Santa Claus. Yes, that's right. As we journey back to the Middle Ages, our modern Santa Claus is noticeably absent. Instead, Christmas was a community-focused event, filled with merriment, music, and acts of kindness. Imagine the scene: bustling market squares filled with cheer, the air rich with the aroma of roasted chestnuts and mulled wine. The Yuletide season was a time of feasting, where families and neighbors would gather around heaving tables, sharing hearty meals and toasting to good health and prosperity. But Christmas wasn't all about feasting and merriment. It was also a time of reflection and charity. During the 12 days of Christmas, it was common for the wealthy to open their homes and share their bounty with those less fortunate. This tradition of giving, rooted in Christian teachings, became a cornerstone of the holiday season. Music too played an integral role in these medieval celebrations. The streets would echo with the sound of carolers, their voices rising in harmony to tell the story of the birth of Jesus. These joyful songs, or carols, were a way to spread cheer and the message of Christmas to all. But what about the children, you might ask? Well, in place of Santa Claus, the tradition was for children to receive small gifts on St. Nicholas Day, which falls on December 6th. This was a nod to the legendary St. Nicholas, who we'll get to know in our next scene. In essence, the Christmas of medieval times was a festival of community, generosity, and joy, celebrating the birth of Christ and the spirit of giving. It was a time to come together, to share, and to spread goodwill. As you can see, Christmas has always been a time for community and generosity, even without our modern Santa Claus. The essence of Christmas, it seems, has remained unchanged over the centuries. A time of love, sharing, and joy. Now let's turn the pages of history and meet the man who would eventually become the Santa Claus we know today. But wait, where does Santa Claus come into the picture? Well, that starts with a generous man from the 4th century named Nicholas. In the ancient city of Myra, in what is now modern-day Turkey, lived a man named Nicholas. He was an orphan, the only child of wealthy parents who tragically died when he was young. Despite his own personal loss, Nicholas was known far and wide for his kindness and his generous spirit. He used his entire inheritance to assist the needy, the sick, and the suffering. His good deeds and acts of kindness didn't go unnoticed, and he soon became a beloved figure in his community. One of the most popular stories about Nicholas tells of a time when he helped a poor man who could not afford dowries for his 3 daughters. Without money for a dowry, the daughters were destined for a life of hardship. Moved by their plight, Nicholas decided to help. He secretly visited their house at night, throwing purses filled with gold coins through their window. Some versions of the tale even say that one of the purses landed in a stocking that had been hung by the fire to dry, which could be the origin of the Christmas tradition of hanging stockings. Nicholas was eventually made a bishop and, after his death, was canonized and became known as Saint Nicholas. His reputation for secret gift-giving and his kindness towards children spread throughout Europe. In many countries, the feast day of St. Nicholas, December 6th, became a day of gift-giving and festivities, especially for children. The idea of a kind, generous man secretly delivering presents appealed to people of all ages. It was a concept that crossed borders and transcended languages. St. Nicholas became the model for a unique holiday figure, a figure who was loved by all and who loved all in return. And so, the concept of a benevolent figure delivering presents was born. And as we'll see in the next segment, this figure would evolve over the centuries, influenced by different cultures and traditions, into the jolly, red-suited Santa Claus we know today. From St. Nicholas to Santa Claus, there's quite a leap. So how did this transformation happen? The evolution of Santa Claus is a fascinating journey, a blend of cultures, traditions, and a dash of marketing genius. Let's journey back to the 17th century, when Dutch settlers in America introduced a figure named Sinterklaas. This character was a local interpretation of St. Nicholas, bearing many similarities but also unique traits. Sinterklaas was depicted as a bishop, who would deliver gifts to children during the December festivities. His name, Sinterklaas, is actually a dialectal pronunciation of St. Nicholas. Over time, Sinterklaas began to take on a life of his own. The Dutch tradition of Sinterklaas was embraced and transformed by the New World, gradually evolving into a character we'd start to recognize. The stern bishop softened into a jolly, rotund man, and his religious robes were replaced with a fur-trimmed red suit. This transformation wasn't sudden but a gradual shift over centuries, punctuated by key cultural moments. For instance, in the early 19th century, a New York scholar named Clement Clark Moore penned a poem for his children titled, "A Visit from St. Nicholas," better known today as "The Night Before Christmas." This poem introduced elements that have since become integral to Santa's persona, including his round belly, his team of reindeer, and his habit of entering homes via the chimney. In the same era, a political cartoonist named Thomas Nast began to regularly feature Santa Claus in his work. Nast's illustrations further solidified Santa's image, introducing his North Pole workshop and his list of naughty and nice children. Thus, through a mingling of cultural influences, a generous, gift-giving saint from the 4th century evolved into a jolly old man who travels the world in a single night spreading joy and cheer. Through the centuries, the kind and generous St. Nicholas evolved into the Santa Claus we know today. But how did Santa Claus get his red suit and jolly demeanor, you may ask? Well, the modern depiction of Santa Claus was crystallized in the 19th century, and it's a fascinating tale of blending cultures, art, and business. The first major influence came from a poem. In 1823, an American professor named Clement Clark Moore penned what would become one of the most famous Christmas poems of all time, A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as most of us know it, The Night Before Christmas. This poem introduced Santa Claus as a jolly, plump, and benevolent figure who flies in a sleigh led by reindeer. Moore's Santa was a delightful mix of St. Nicholas and English and Dutch folklore. Around the same time, a German-born American cartoonist named Thomas Nast began to visually bring Santa Claus to life. Nast is credited with creating the first modern image of Santa Claus, complete with a round belly, a bushy white beard, and a sack full of toys. His illustrations, published in Harper's Weekly throughout the late 19th century, shaped our collective image of Santa Claus. However, Santa's iconic red suit came a bit later. In the 1930s, the Coca-Cola Company commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to develop advertising images using Santa Claus. Sundblom chose to dress him in red, the color associated with Coca-Cola. His interpretation of Santa was so popular that it not only sold more Coca-Cola but also solidified the image of Santa Claus in the minds of people around the world. And with that, the image of Santa Claus that we all know and love was finally complete. The modern Santa Claus, a symbol of generosity, joy, and the magic of the holiday season, is a culmination of centuries of history, folklore, and even a bit of savvy marketing. Today, his image transcends cultures and brings a sense of wonder and excitement to the Christmas celebrations of millions around the globe.